Hi, this is Stephen in Exile again. I'm here to talk to you again. I want to clean up the mess in aisle 4 from yesterday's video a little bit. This, you could almost call it the woulda, shoulda, coulda segment. Yesterday I got a little melodramatic, but yesterday was uh, emotion driven, if you will. Um, the point that I hoped that I made yesterday was pretty simple. The 17th Amendment has been a disaster for our nation. It created an atmosphere where the termites could eat the foundation. So it has brought on, by direct election of United States senators by the population, it has brought on bad legislation that goes from FDR's Great Society program that gave us the mentality of government safety nets. And out of that mentality, it really cost us the most in the TARP and the stimulus packages that have been used to just rob our nation of our wealth. Then came Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs. Uh, the Great Society programs has single-handedly devastated the black community. Then came the war on drugs. The war on drugs. We're going to talk about that because that, of course, is what I want to talk about in a few minutes. Brought us the war on drugs. Devastating. Just devastating to our civil basic rights as a citizenry. Then came the hate crimes legislation. Well, that's the most racist piece of legislation ever passed in our nation. And then came, of course, Obamacare. Now, and we're seeing what Obamacare has done for us. So, all of this legislation should have been stopped in the Senate. The Senate's firewall should have been up and would have stopped most of this legislation, if not all of it. So, if you wanted to replace your senators, then before the 17th Amendment, you wanted to replace your United States senators, you had to know your legislators, and you had to deal with your state legislators. Thus, side benefit to that would, of course, been maybe you paid attention to what your state legislators were doing. So, I hope that point got across, uh, and I didn't convolute it too much yesterday. Uh, so let's go ahead and move on. Now, I mentioned the war on drugs. The police chief that spoke at CPAC yesterday, his name was Sullivan, I think, or I don't know. He spoke yesterday about forfeiture of assets and how police departments were abusing the citizenry using forfeiture of assets because of the war on drugs. Uh, and that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart because it has given our police departments, and we'll just call it the state, if you will, unprecedented search and seizure power over the citizenry. In my radio show I had in Las Vegas, that segment was always called Abuse of the Citizenry, whether it was big burly Henderson police officers shooting a 90 nothing pound ice cream truck driver because she had a steak knife, or if it was uh, seizing assets in the drug war, or harassing citizens in the name of the drug war, and on. We can go on and on about that. But right now it comes to be that we come to find out that Sean Spicer in passing mentioned that President Trump, and we do love saying President Trump, is considering enforcing federal drug laws as they pertain to marijuana. Now, no doubt that came from Chris Christie because of his recent visit to the White House where he, of course, enjoyed his meatloaf. Because that was one of Christie's biggest talking points during the campaign. He would often say that the party's over Colorado. Um, what a mistake that would be to start engaging the states on the legalization of marijuana. You know, folks, there's a lot worse things in life than pot smokers. This whole war on drugs has been a disaster. It's gotten me in so much trouble with my family. Back in the days when I wasn't so innocent, rather than to lie to the people I loved, I always told the truth. Are you on the marijuanas? Yes. Oh my God, he's on the marijuanas. Okay, lived there, been there, done that. Still clear conscience about it. But my philosophy on this war on drugs is really simple. It might be a little heartless, but it's pretty darn simple. Legalize all the drugs. Gangs disappear, gone. No power base. You take away the gang's money, and they have no power base. And what do you think the cost of drugs, how inflated the cost of drugs are because of their illegality? If it was legal, all the drug prices subject to market pressures. So gangs, poof, gone. No weapons, no power. Let's go on to the police state. You would need 50% of your police departments. Oh my God. The police, what wonderful new toys they have thanks to the war on drugs. And again, the unprecedented search and seizure power that we've granted them in the name of the war on drugs. Folks, it's pretty simple. You remember now, I've probably watched at least 500 or maybe 50 of President Trump's campaign speeches. And in many of his speeches, he always talked about his brother Freddie and how what a wonderful life Freddie had ahead of him, but he destroyed it with alcohol. And that's where he always told his children, out of that, he always told his children, no cigarettes, no alcohol, no drugs. Well, he learned that lesson the hard way, and thus his parenting philosophy developed. Well, when it comes to drugs, folks, it's going to sound a little heartless, but the truth is that most of these drugs are self-eliminating. You do enough of the drugs, your heart's going to explode. Okay? Oh, Stephen, no, someone might die. Yeah, someone just might die. But younger siblings, nephews, a whole generation would say, hey, Uncle Joe, Aunt Jane, look at what happened to them. They died so young because they were on the drugs. Maybe the next generation or two would watch the drugs self-eliminate, and they would decide to stay away from them. It's just pretty darn simple. But this war on drugs that we're fighting, that Nancy Reagan started, and God bless Nancy Reagan, her heart was in the right place. Probably one of the most classiest ladies ever to be in the White House. It has not been won. Billions and billions of dollars spent on it. Massive abuse of the citizenry. It hasn't been won. It hasn't even put a dent in it. And yet here we are still talking about it. There's many libertarians out there that will agree with me, and they would have the facts and the figures. And if this was 5 years ago when I had my notebooks all with the computer printouts with the facts and figures, I would be able to relay them to you. But it's just common sense. Legalize them, take the profit motive out of it, and it will all just go away, one way or another. Folks, it's just that simple. Don't fall for the red herrings that the drug testing companies are throwing at you. My God, what an industry drug testing has become. They're going to keep the myth alive. The police departments, every chief of police, talking about needing to violate your rights in order to stop the drugs. But if you look at their budgets, and of course their toys, then you'll understand why they're so hard against drugs. Folks, drugs are self-eliminating. Let them eliminate the problem. It's that simple. This is Stephen in Exile. I hope I gave you a little food for thought here, just basic common sense. Thank you for viewing, and I hope you look forward to another video.